Sand dunes are beautiful hotspots for biodiversity, providing wildlife with food rich in nutrients and secure habitats, but our human love for them is having detrimental impacts. Hi guys, I'm Jess, and I'm currently studying environmental geoscience at the University of Plymouth. Through my years of studying the environment, I've developed a keen understanding of the ecosystems of beaches, and today I'll be discussing the human impacts that we have on the conservation of sand dunes and their local environments. I'll start with why sand dunes are so important for wildlife. They are first formed when sand from onshore winds gets trapped by vegetational debris, and the continuation of that sand being blown will cause these small mounds to increase, and this is also known as an embryo dune. Over time, pioneer plants such as lime grass will colonise these mounds as they have adapted to survive the harsh conditions of the dune environment, battling high salinity, strong winds and lots of moisture. Their roots bind the sand together, providing stabilisation in this early development stage. Dune will continue to grow, succeeding further back on the beach, with new species of vegetation being introduced. As plants within the dunes grow and die, their organic matter enriches the soil below, enhancing the nutrient content. This cycle of life and death allows the sustainment of new plant life to take place. These environmental factors create major dynamic ecological ecosystems on our beaches. Activities, however, pose a large threat to these environments. Human impacts such as coastal development and sand mining negatively impact these ecosystems as they interrupt the natural processes. For example, the accretion cycle that maintains the dunes with a sufficient amount of sand and sediment. However, today I would like to discuss the individual negative impacts that we have on our ecosystems of our dunes. Litter and plastic pollution has a well-known negative impact on our wildlife. Littering causes long-term health issues and death of wildlife through things like entanglement that leads to strangulation and malnutrition, as litter is often mistaken as food by wildlife. Litter pollution also has direct ecological impacts on sand dunes due to the contamination of soils, which hinder plant growth. These disruptions reduce biodiversity and cause the degradation of the ecosystem. Most people will agree that they value the protection of wildlife. They understand the value of recycling and disposing of their personal rubbish through proper methods. However, with the continuation of massive amounts of litter still being purposely left, it's clear that there's a gap between their values and their actual actions. This is known as the value-action gap concept. This value-action gap is apparent on our beaches, as they are prime places for people to litter, as many objects that get brought to the beach tend to have a one-time use, such as barbecues, or are very rarely used throughout the year, and it is believed if it gets left behind, there's no harm, it barely gets used. That was in quotations, by the way. However, as discussed previously, there is a lot of harm that comes from this. The need to bridge this gap between individuals' values and actions has to occur for any actual environmental change to happen. But as said, the notion that littering is bad for the environment is well known. So practices to reduce this gap has to be presented in a way that doesn't just regurgitate what people are already being told, as it clearly isn't working on a large enough scale. This concept highlights the barriers that scientists experience when communicating science to the general population in order to create any positive environmental change.